Wow. I mean, can you feel it? Can you feel it? I am like almost like splitting in two dimensions. Maybe not even two, maybe it's like doubling every second or something. Like I'm so spaced out, and there is like this resonance that those split energies are vibrating at the same frequency. So it's like it's split, but it's in resonance. I don't. It's so tangible, like this energy, and it's a second new moon in a month. So I mean, in this same sign. So it's a chance at a new beginning that we started a month ago, and maybe that was not ready yet, or it was not so formulated. Now there is so much momentum to that new beginning. There's a lot of information because it was already through this cycle of like full moon, and it had like time to germinate and to accumulate all the insights or like processes, what's necessary for the current, for this explosion of growth, or like for launching this new idea, project, beingness into reality. That now it's literally like so tight, it's ready like to launch. And the Saturn, that's exactly opposite of where the new moon is at, is basically supporting this new beginning, because there are like new moons every month, right? And they're um it's not like that would always start something really, really for reals and then continue with that. But with the Saturn opposite of this new moon, it's really the energy of it's time. It's time to go and do that. And we checked for the second time on the same point. So whatever the sign is in your chart, it's still gonna be in relating to the way you nurture yourself, to the way you um, relate to your roots, to your upbringing, to your uh, ancestry, to your family, the way you nurture others, and the way you prefer being nurtured or receive the nurturing. Anything connected to your feeling of safety in the world. Like this opposition with Saturn in Capricorn, that is speaking of authority and structures and outward activities, the business and all of this, like cold mathematical and like efforting, and how in face of that you still preserve your, how you carry your home with you, basically how you stay at peace, how you stay feeling safe and protected. And I don't know why did I even start. I mean, it makes sense why I started talking about it, but I literally feel like this kind of sense of bubble around me, kind of like this energy. I don't know, maybe how you visually would imagine an aura, but like I literally feel this kind of like magnetic um, field. I'm not saying it is magnetic, but like when you put two magnets against each other at the opposite ends, like you can feel this kind of bounce of the energy. I feel like it all around me, or maybe my head, I don't know. So it is very like when you germinate a seed, or when you make a chia pudding, you know, like how it gets like all slimy around the seed. So like this sense of protection, but also sense of getting ready for the next step, like getting ready to open up to spring into beingness, to let it out, like all your authentic, all your core beingness is ready to be let out. And it's also so emblematic that it's at the end of Cancer season, because Cancer season is about navigating, what's the other word? Not arguing. When you talk to like somebody, not discussing. What's the thing that ambassadors do? Huh? I'm lost in space. I don't know where I'm at. So this, like navigating your beingness in relation to the world, in relation to those around you, and the feeling of responsibility of who you are, how you are, and kind of this, the balancing of like, that word is so important, but I can't remember it because that word is very precise and exactly what I mean. But I can't look it up right now because I'm doing the live. So this, like feeling into yourself while also feeling the others, and making kind of this conversation within yourself. Am I feeling my importance enough to know to let others witness myself without carrying the burden of their response towards me? Because Cancer cares about others a lot, especially the close ones, or like the kin. So that brings a lot of kind of inner repression, which in turn brings a lot of like maybe passive aggression or just resentment. So to release that resentment, you have to take the authority, you have to reclaim your power, and in that you are returning the power back to other people as well, because now you're not mothering them, you're not patronizing them anymore. You're saying, this is me. You're not even saying it because it's all very subtle and internal and emotional, but you are you are blooming into it, kind of. It unravels very naturally, like with waves, kind of. One, the next one, the next one, the next one. And because it's so natural and each one goes like more expansive outwardly, you don't really need to have um to to proclaim it with words, to have any kind of um declaration. Okay, so this is happening now, or this is how things are now, because it's like breath. It's very natural. Even though it's expansive, it's also cyclical at the same time. So this whole month been like this, like a bit of contraction and expansion, contraction, more expansion, contraction, more expansion, contraction, more expansion. And at this level right now, the expansion is such that the contraction, it's the last contraction before the new season, before going into yourself, before going into the new season of like enjoying your nature, like savoring it and sharing it very confidently with the whole world. So now this the size of contracted self has matched equally the size of expanded self at the beginning of the season. So it is equal. It looks as if it's equal. It looks as if, wow, I made this whole journey and nothing has changed, but it's only on the surface as such, because actually within, as opposed to beginning of the month, it was almost like hollow. It was almost like stretched and very like vacuum, because like it expanded and was like at the biggest, at the vastest of itself. And now it's the most dense, it's contracted, and it is so ready for this burst of expansion. And because it came so naturally from all these movements, it's really a force of nature, and it cannot stop, it cannot be stopped. And the thing is, what's the most beautiful, because of like also Saturn, this timing and everything, it's like there is no even desire, or not even desire. Wow, I feel completely boundless. I don't feel the body. So there is no desire. No. There's not even a question of whether this should continue or not, because it keeps continuing anyway. So this alignment with the natural process, how we keep like turning around the sun, and how everything in the universe is like all forces of universe, they don't depend on you, but you are one of the forces, you know. So it's like releasing of need is not the right word, releasing of the idea that anything has to be done, like be done, because it is going on. It is going on. And now you're like getting into this, like this rhythm. So the desire to what's the word, the desire to differentiate yourself from the force of nature. It's strange to say gone. I can't say it's gone, but it's not paid attention to by the consciousness. So, you letting it go, you letting go, and Saturn helps as well, because it's like it's time you let go, it's time you let go, so you are. And this transition into another season, into next stage of the journey, of the path, and again, like, not path as a linear from birth to death, from one point to another. No, it is cyclical, exactly the same way as we're like turning around and spinning in orbit and whatever. It's just a path, not as movement from the start to finish, but as the continuation of movement, aka continuation of expansion and growth and transmutation, which again is always happening, but the ego, when it was stronger and was holding stuff back, it's not holding anything back. It's holding on to an idea. It's putting the focus on idea. It was putting the energy onto idea of separateness, of desire for control, which stems from the really silly idea of even possibility of control, in this small 3D sense of what we think control is, right? Versus the actual control of letting into it, like surrendering into the flow, and thus being in control by recognizing yourself as a part of universal forces. So ego was kind of being like, when you have a piece of wood and a little splinter is like, or maybe you broke a piece of wood, or like you sewn it apart, but the last piece you broke off and there's a tiny splinter, so it's like all smooth and suddenly splinter. So that's how ego feels. It's like it splits a little bit at the root, but it can't really completely go anywhere, because it is also energy. So once you kind of smooth it back, also maybe not so much the wood, but like a feather, you can like take a feather and like split them parts, and then you smooth it back in, and feather looks exactly like complete and comes back to its like original beingness, because it is an embodiment of its purpose as well, because now it's more back to the state where it can like support the weight of its being. I mean, whomever is growing the feathers on their body, so the ego is just like that stray feather that needs to be kind of like carried back into the wholeness. So where did I come from? So the ego is easing up back into realizing its oneness with every other aspect, like of the universe, of the energy, of the consciousness, right? So ego is like physical, not deviation, not mutation, but it's kind of like universal consciousness, um not sifted, but like just passes through the lens of 3D body, human body. Like this human brain is the body, right? And that the way it operates and the way it connects to the physical body, and how it stores trauma and how it responds to it. So that what creates this distortion and this idea of separateness of the ego, because ego thinks that the body is not protected and is trying to be the protector. So we are letting all of this go, and we're culminating right now, so we can enter the next stage where it's first gonna like burst, same way, like exactly like the seed is bursting. Like first it's kind of getting up, soaking up all the moisture or whatever. If it's just in the ground, it's just like collecting all this energy, and then it just cracks open with a lot of power, but it's not like an explosion. The only power, it's kind of like kept to itself. It's kept to itself, not wasting any energy onto moving things around it, at least not more than it just needs to have its own space, to claim the space it needs for growth. And it does not create more space than needed. Like it does not create space in advance. That would be also egoic. Like, oh, I think, in a while I'll be needing this much, so I'd better prepare now. So this lack of trust, lack of feeling safe and cared for, and this desire to plan and effort beforehand. So thus removing yourself from the present moment, or removing the awareness from the present moment. So this expansion of the seed is what's pushing space around it, like away, and there is no empty space. It keeps filling in the space at the same time as creating the space. So that's what's going to be happening next season, like a new season, when it starts. I think it's Wednesday, I'm not sure. So we're going to get into this interesting. I don't know if we get to bloom right away. But I feel this. We're not asking to be seen. We're not asking to be validated. We're not asking anybody, the world, the universe, to give us stage, because we are creating the stage by getting into our true nature, by acknowledging our own uniqueness, our own talent. So as you acknowledge your talent, you create a stage simultaneously. There is no one because of the other. As anything in the universe, there is never cause and effect. It does not exist simply. It's an illusion, and it's a way of mind to make for itself to make sense of reality, to break pieces onto like digestible components. But by breaking them apart, it does break them. So then the concept becomes untrue, unwhole. It becomes split, and then you try to understand separate pieces. It's like you broke the vase, and you're trying to understand what vase looked like through looking at separate pieces, or trying to understand what capacity to hold water this vase had. You cannot do that. You cannot know. Maybe you can analyze the material it was made out of, but you don't know the shape, you don't know the volume, you can't really know the whole pattern that it had on it. So the only way is just to perceive the whole, accept it, and trust that it kind of does not need anything. Nothing needs anything. Need doesn't exist. Like the beingness is what's present. And you can accept your beingness, everybody beingness, and everything beingness, and let yourself be allowed along your path. Allowed, not in the sense that you weren't allowed, but you weren't allowing yourself to go. And it's not like you're guided. I mean, you can call it guidance, but it's also not guidance. You just brought there. You're bringing yourself there. It's kind of like a river, but at the same time, it's like the caterpillar thingy, like on the tank. You walk, and by walking, you extend the path. And by extending the path, you're walking, etc., 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 etc. You cannot stop and be like, I cannot walk further because I don't see path in front of me. It unfolds as you walk. And as you keep walking, it keeps unfolding and unfolding. And it's not possible to be off your path. There is no way for it to for you to be on the wrong path. There's no way for you to lose the path because it is created by your expansion. Like, even when you don't go, it's just as simple as that. You just you take a pause. But path is always there, right under your feet. And the moment you decide to go, or you allow yourself to go, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you're standing somewhere. I see. It's like when you don't go for a really long time and things around you, they keep going. The time-space reality kind of warps around you. So you're standing and everything keeps going. So there is this curvature is created around you. So you're like an anchor. And because of this curvature, there is a tension. It's kind of like on a... What's the thing? How you call it? Like when you throw the rocks, was you have a rubber band and like this thing, so there is the tension, and you are that rock. And the longer you stand and not go and wouldn't let yourself go, the bigger tension becomes, because the farthest parts of reality from you, the farther they are, the farther they go, the more tension there is on you, because everything keeps moving. Nothing stops. But you create around yourself an illusion that things stop, because you create your own reality, and because time is a construct and it's perceptual and it's not like a fact or a thing. So this imagined obstacle, this imagined lack of movement or expansion, it creates tension, and then it catapults you forward. And that is why it's so important to be present, or doing the work. It's just, I'm not going to go into details, but like, it's always, you will always go, right? You can't not go. But your choice, your power, and your authority, like, conscious, purposeful authority, is in the choice between, are you trying to go there consciously and willingly, and again, not doesn't mean making an effort, but letting yourself be carried, or are you gonna put a lot of effort into stalling the movement so that later it catapults you, maybe even farther than everything else. That's how you get revolutionaries. That's how you get all these people. Like, when you incarnate and you decide to be this driving force, you decide to be that inspiration, and that's how you get there. You get incarnated in such situation where, at least in the beginning, like, or you perceive to be very much held back, or you perceive the lack of resource, or you perceive a huge oppression, like something that seems almost impossible to overcome. And the stronger this force is, again, the more tension there's going to be around it, the more potential energy is going to be accumulated around you in the time space. So when the tension is stronger than your perceived hindrance, then you fly forward with such power and strength that you end up being kind of on the forefront. You end up being so much farther than the reality perceived by others. That's how you get visionary. All these people that were like inspiring millions and changing the landscape, they're all like that. And they never change it. Like, you remain the same. You're born with this purpose, or you're born with this desire, and it stays the same. Your energy is preserved, but because you are born that, like, to embody that energy in the 3D plane, you see, it's like there is no kind of like cause and outcome, as I said, but there is this not desire. The function is that, like, if everything was just equal and everybody was exactly the same, right? It just, nothing would have been ever disrupted, or everything would have been like smooth, there wouldn't be any growth, etc., etc. So growth happens at the moment of perceived struggle. So, and everybody has the desire for certain growth in certain area, in certain, plane, at every moment. Not at every moment, like at every incarnation. So when you have within you this desire for collective wellness, let's say, right? Everybody is only as, like, you can only be good or bring good stuff, or like you can only add to this universe. No, you're always adding. You can only, I cannot say it. So because you planned to be on the forefront, you planned already, you knew you're gonna be like ahead of your time, right? So that energy that you already knew was gonna be happening, that you sculpted for yourself before incarnating, this energy at the point of incarnation, it's the same energy. So if by the end, or not by the end, but right, but at some point it becomes very forward looking, right? That is already kind of like, it's not separated from everything, but it's pulling everything, everyone, all the current reality behind on their shoulders. It's not only that they have to be really strong and in anchored in that energy, in it, without doubt, without any clouded self-perception or perception of the world, which is the same, so it doesn't matter. But they also, that energy, that like Aquarian energy, right? Because it's like from the future. You are from the future because you are the same at any point, regardless of time. So if you are to be a visionary at some point, then at the moment of incarnation, you are already that energy, and you almost like, you feel like foreign. You feel foreign, or like you're treated by outside energy like an ingrown hair or something. You know, it's trying to repel you because you don't belong in this time-space reality, because you're from the future time-space reality. But you're here. You're incarnated into the depth of the nowness, the currentness. So that already creates this like background for this drama, trauma, and all this feeling of heaviness, which allows for a lot of momentum to be accumulated behind it, while the reality stretches around you to propel you forward. I don't remember why am I talking about this, and should I end at this point? I don't even know. Maybe I go for a walk. Should I go for a walk? Interesting. Maybe I go for a walk and I see from there, but I've been feeling like this like all day. Okay, I hope you're doing well and it's still working. Let me see. Oh, okay, it's still working. Perfect. Let's try and save this, hopefully. Have a good what? Don't worry if you can't fall asleep today. Also, don't worry if you can. It's all good, no matter what. Let's